Hello everyone, welcome back to the NPC Dungeon, unless of course this is your first time joining us, in which case hi. This is a channel in which I give tips and tricks for people wanting to run tabletop games like D&D themselves, so if you're into that kind of thing, you're in the right place. If you've been with me for a while now, you might notice a little difference in today's video. That's because I just bought a new microphone for myself. I got an upgrade on my previous one, so the sound quality should be a little bit better now. Anyway, today's video is going to be all about flavoring your boss fights and making them really interesting and engaging so that your players look forward to them and so they leave a lasting impression in your players' minds. Last week, I talked about making boss fights that are actually difficult, but don't worry, you don't have to have watched that video to understand this one. However, if you want to, I'll leave a link and a card to it as always for your convenience. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started and let's learn something. I think that the most logical place to begin is with the boss themselves, so let's start there. I'm talking about flavoring the boss so they aren't just a big bag of hit points. Think about what they are, and use this to inform how you play them. Now, when I say play the boss, I'm not talking about silly voices and gestures. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. I'm talking about characterizing them with their actions. Not only does this give them more personality, but it also makes the combat more interesting. For example, are they an old, wise wizard? They might be confident enough to actually give the players tips and recommendations during the fight. Someone who's trying to help the players might do the same thing. Conversely, a really arrogant boss might mock and antagonize the PCs. Just make sure your players are okay with that before you start implementing it. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, if your boss is just some big scary savage monster, they might throw all tactics out the window and just start fiercely attacking the players because they can. That is always scary. You may also, as another example here, have a very aloof boss who is very meticulous and takes their time. One of my favorite bosses that I ever ran was like this. They weren't concerned with winning or losing and were even willing to sacrifice themselves. All they wanted was bloodshed and destruction. If you want, I'll leave a link in a card to the video where I tell that story as well. Keep in mind, that's a bit of an older video. I wasn't using pixel art yet, and the sound quality is not great. But if you want to listen to it anyway, I will leave a link in a card for you for that video. Which actually brings me to my next point. Know who the boss is. Giving them a personality is a really good place to start in terms of giving them actions and motivations during the combat that would realistically suit them. And if you don't have any good ideas immediately, I have a video all about giving NPCs personality, and a lot of that applies here too. So I'll go ahead and leave a link in a card to that video as well as one about giving NPCs stats if you want. But for a few tips for now, subvert the norm. If you expect a scientist character to be all stoic and logical, think again. Doing the exact opposite might give you a good place to start. And once you're there, just jot down everything that comes to mind. You'd be surprised just how many good ideas you have without realizing that you have them. The book also has a lot of really good resources you can use for inspiration in the personality, ideals, bonds, and flaws section of any background, and I believe there are sections just for villains and NPCs characteristics as well in the DM's guide. And just for a few examples, are they cowardly? Maybe they flee and let the traps they have sprinkled at the battlefield do the work for them. Are they a guilt-ridden individual who doesn't want to harm their players? Maybe they hesitate and hold back. And what if they're so powerful that they don't even see the players as a threat? They might underestimate them and have to flee. That can be really fun and really encouraging for your players. And lastly, about the boss themselves, what are they trying to accomplish? Maybe the players just found them and they only want to get away. Maybe they're trying to build a very powerful magical item or tame an incredibly powerful magical beast to use to their ends. Think about the steps they might need to accomplish to get there, and use one of those to make the combat interesting, to create a scenario for the combat. Maybe the boss who is trying to use the powerful beast has just had their people captured and is being transferred to the boss in the moment the combat occurs. What might the boss try to do during the situation? You can also use who they are and what they are to inform this decision as well. And in the same vein, use tactics, at least with bosses who would realistically use tactics. Remember, the decision to think tactically is just as much of a decision for the DM as the decision of what tactic to use. And in the area of what tactic to use, think, will this boss try to weaken the players with more distant spells or attacks that inflict blindness and maybe put certain players to sleep and then go in for the kill? Will they sneak around and turn invisible? Will they use minions? How? Will they try to surround their players, split them up, use traps, entice them with promises of coin and recognition if they help them? But remember, in all these tactics, be sure not to make it unfair. Don't just have the boss use greater invisibility during the whole combat unless there's a way for the players to turn it off. And don't just have them put everyone to sleep or inflict blindness on everyone. That will not be fun for anyone at all. Give the players chances to overcome the odds. This might mean having the boss make tactical errors. I once had a bunch of birds fight the players. Some would grab rocks, fly into the air, and drop them on the players. It isn't super efficient, but it made things interesting and it was kind of fun. Or maybe the boss has a flaw in their fighting style, or is just too overconfident and they slip up a little bit every now and then. You might also allow puzzle-like elements in the combat as well. Now, when I say puzzle, I don't mean some super complicated puzzle. It could be something as simple as trying to find a way to turn off a machine, or a riddle that the boss told them. Maybe the boss won't let them pass until they answer correctly. There could also be some item the players might have to return to its rightful place on a nearby pedestal with a marking that implies its relation. I know it sounds simple, like an infant can solve it, but keep in mind, when your players are in the heat of combat, they already have enough on their minds. Even the simplest puzzle can become very difficult in these settings. Use that to your advantage. And lastly, use the environment. I know I've been kind of hinting at that recently, and I say this every time I talk about combat. I said this in the last video about boss fights, but I'm saying it here again because just like an exciting boss might make the combat, so might an exciting arena for that combat. Have you ever watched a good movie and got really hyped when you saw the protagonist take on the villain on the rooftop in the final battle or something? Well, that's how your players are going to feel if you make the location for the boss fight just right. It could be on a rooftop, or it could be at sea, or in an actual arena, and the list goes on. I like to make it match the boss as well. Are they a ranger? Try to gear it to the outdoors. Are they an old sea captain? A boat would be perfect. And how they get there depends on the story, so try to plan ahead not only for the boss, but also for the location as well. This not only makes the combat exciting, it also flavors it to the boss, so it fits the scenario, and it gives the boss a little bit of a home field advantage, so they can use the environment and make the combat that much more interesting, that much more exciting, and that much more difficult, and thus that much more satisfying when the players do eventually win. And that's it for today. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you really liked it, and you'll be notified when I release a new video. I release new videos on Fridays, and I release a short video every other day, along with a new pixel art piece over in posts. Also, if you have any feedback, think I missed an important point, or just want to say hi, feel free to comment. I almost always respond, and I really do love what my comment section has become. I feel like I'm learning so much from all of you, and I really enjoy seeing what you'll have to say, and see you all engaging in intelligent and constructive conversations. It really means a lot. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope that you found it useful. Until next time, let's learn something.